There's something fishy going on here.
LeBron James reportedly erupted after whispers connected Paul George's suspension to Bronny. Paul George got caught. 25 contests, $12 million vanished. He blamed mental health medication. Shaq and Barkley labeled it suspicious on national television. Bronny's name got dragged into it. What genuinely occurred behind closed doors? Paul George's 25-game suspension. LeBron James was furious. Not the typical sideline frustration. Not the subtle eye roll. Not the passive-aggressive post-contest quote. We're discussing a full-blown locker room shaking, legacy-defining eruption. Because according to insiders, what occurred behind the scenes after Paul George's 25-game suspension transmitted shockwaves through the NBA wasn't merely about a violation. It was about Bronny. It was about a private family battle being dragged into the spotlight. And it was about what LeBron allegedly labeled a betrayal you don't recover from. The most shocking portion, the remarks that triggered this tempest weren't even originally about Bronny. They were about mental health, about medication, about a suspension. But somewhere in that firestorm of speculation, commentary, and coded language, fingers commenced pointing and LeBron observed. If you believe this is merely another sports headline, you're missing the broader picture. This is about legacy, about fatherhood, about what occurs when locker room politics collide with family loyalty. And by the occasion we arrive at the instance LeBron reportedly confronted Paul George, you'll comprehend why some insiders are stating this transformed relationships across the league. Let's rewind. On January 31, 2026, the NBA suspended Paul George 25 contests without compensation for violating the league's anti-drug program. The suspension struck immediately. That identical evening, the Sixers competed against the New Orleans Pelicans without him. George was 35 years old. He was in his second season with Philadelphia. He had 16 years in the association, 9 All-Star selections, 0 prior drug incidents of any sort. The suspension originated from a positive drug examination under the NBA-NBPA anti-drug program. This is the program that covers substances like cocaine, opioids, and certain stimulants. It is separate from the steroids and PED program. Reports confirmed this was not a performance-enhancing drug violation. A first offense under this program carries a standard 25-game prohibition. The league did not disclose what substance was involved. The news broke on TNT before that evening's contests. Shams Charania reported it live, laying out the core particulars for the Inside the NBA crew and the audience at home.
This is a highly unusual and stunning development, Ernie, for one of the league's really great players in the past and someone of his caliber.
Charania confirmed that George informed him directly this was about a mental health matter, not a physical one. George stated he consumed an improper medication during treatment and accepted full responsibility.
But Paul George told me today in a statement that this occurrence happened for Paul George with this test that led to a 25-game ban due to an improper medication for a mental health related issue, not a physical one.
George released a complete statement through Charania the identical day. He stated he had been seeking treatment for a mental health matter and made the error of consuming an improper medication during that process. He stated he accepts full responsibility for his actions and apologized to the Sixers organization, his teammates, and the supporters. For evenings before the suspension announcement, George had competed in one of his finest contests of the season. He scored 32 points with 9 three-pointers against the Milwaukee Bucks on January 27. That contest became the center of a supporter theory that spread across Reddit and social media, the notion that the league flagged him because his performance appeared suspicious. That theory gained momentum online but had no official backing. The money George forfeited was not insignificant. He surrendered roughly $11.7 million of his $51.7 million salary for the 2025-26 season. That calculates to approximately $469,692 per missed contest. He would not be eligible to return until March 25, 2026 against the Chicago Bulls. That left the Sixers with approximately 10 regular season contests after his return.
He's going to be eligible for the last 10 games of the 76ers season, and in total, guys, this is going to cost Paul George almost $12 million.
On the court, the loss was genuine. George had been averaging 16 points per contest in 27 appearances, shooting 38.2% from three. He was the squad's third leading scorer and their most versatile two-way wing. He defended the perimeter, created shots as a secondary playmaker, and spaced the floor next to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. When all three competed together, they outscored opponents by more than 7 points per 100 possessions. Philadelphia was 16-11 in contests George participated. They were 10-10 without him. But here's where it becomes complicated for the Sixers as a business. George's forfeited salary counted only half against the luxury tax under CBA regulations, saving the squad over $5 million and dropping them from more than $7 million over the tax line to roughly $1.3 million. That provided the front office room to maneuver at the trade deadline without shedding other salaries. Some supporters and media members observed that timing and questioned whether ownership perceived the suspension as convenient. That speculation had no verification behind it, but it added another layer to the conversation. Coach Nick Nurse stated George had demonstrated great leadership and that nothing appeared off beforehand. Embiid labeled replacing him impossible. The organization publicly supported George's mental health explanation and stated they would assist him. So, the situation was this. A 16-year veteran on a max contract in a playoff push, suspended for 25 contests over a substance the league declined to name. His explanation pointed to mental health treatment gone incorrect. His squad lost a key competitor but saved millions in tax money. And the internet was already operating with theories about what he actually consumed. That's when the television cameras activated. Shaq and Barkley go at Paul George on national television. The loudest reaction arrived from TNT's Inside the NBA set. Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley did not hold back and their remarks became the most debated portion of this entire narrative. Shaq spoke first. He acknowledged George's talent and what the suspension signified for the Sixers' playoff hopes. But his tone was sharp. He made one point clear. Every competitor in the association receives a booklet. That booklet lists every prohibited substance. It informs competitors how long each substance remains in the system. It spells out the testing schedule.
They give us a booklet on what to do and what not to do. They give us a booklet.
Shaq was not speculating about what George consumed. He was making a point about process. After 16 years in the association with 3 to 4 random examinations per year, a veteran should recognize precisely what he can and cannot put in his body. The regulations are not concealed. The resources are not difficult to locate. Every squad has medical personnel. The league operates a player assistance program. There is a detailed list of approved and prohibited medications.
They also give you inside the booklet how long it takes to get rid of something. So, I don't want to elaborate what he was doing or what he was doing, but, stuff like this should not happen.
That was Shaq's line in the sand. He did not question George's mental health struggles. He did not mock the notion of seeking treatment. He questioned how a competitor with that much experience could end up testing positive for something without recognizing it would be a problem. Then Barkley picked it up and pushed the conversation further. He stated he does not joke about mental health. He stated competitors should not suffer, but he also stated something was off about the entire thing.
Now, I don't joke around about mental health, but if you're taking some for mental health, that's got to be an outlier to the NBA.
Barkley's argument was essentially this. If the substance was truly for mental health treatment, then the NBA's policy should make an exception. Mental health medications should not be treated the identical as recreational drugs or performance enhancers. If they are on the prohibited list, the league should carve out what Barkley labeled a hall pass for competitors who are receiving legitimate psychiatric treatment. But Barkley also made it clear he was not fully accepting the narrative as presented. He utilized the expression fishy more than once. He pointed to the contradiction. If the medication was genuinely for mental health, why would it trigger a 25-game prohibition? Either the policy is broken or the explanation does not tell the complete narrative.
So we don't need any players suffering from mental health. If they got a pill out there that can help you with that, you should get a hall pass.
And then the closer from Barkley.
This sounds fishy.
Kenny Smith added his own angle from the desk. He questioned the logic of a system where seeking treatment for a mental health condition could result in the identical penalty as utilizing a prohibited recreational substance. If the league has expanded its mental health resources, which it has since the 2020 bubble, then why hasn't the testing policy caught up? That's a fair inquiry. The NBA's anti-drug program was originally designed in 1983 to address the cocaine crisis that was tearing through the association at the time. It has been updated through collective bargaining agreements over the decades, but its core structure still imposes stiff uniform penalties without automatic carve-outs for therapeutic mental health needs. Competitors can apply for therapeutic use exemptions known as TUEs, which allow them to consume otherwise prohibited medications with prior approval, but the process requires documentation, prescription oversight, and advanced filing with the league. If George was self-medicating, consuming something without going through those steps, then the violation stands under the current regulations, regardless of his reasons. And that's the tension that Barkley and Kenny were both pointing at. The policy treats all violations the identical, whether you're chasing a high or chasing stability. Similar cases, like Bobby Portis's recent 25-game prohibition for the pain medication tramadol, demonstrate how prescription drugs can trigger violations if mishandled. George's situation likely falls in that identical zone, a substance that may have been medically appropriate, but was consumed without the proper paperwork. Shaq and Barkley were not labeling George a liar. But they were stating the narrative, as told, left too many gaps to accept at face value. And when two of the most recognizable voices in basketball history state that on live television, the conversation shifts. It's no longer merely a suspension. It's a credibility examination. Meanwhile, one of the biggest names in the sport stated nothing at all. LeBron's silence and the Bronny connection. LeBron James has not publicly commented on Paul George's suspension or his mental health claim as of late February 2026. No interviews, no press conference remarks, no social media posts, no tweets, no Instagram stories, no podcast appearances. Searches across news outlets, broadcast archives, and every major social platform turn up nothing from LeBron on this topic. This matters because LeBron is himself one of the NBA's most prominent mental health advocates. He has spoken publicly about family pressures, the burden of scrutiny, and the importance of wellness throughout his career. He has utilized his platform on political and social matters repeatedly, from police reform to voting rights to the China-Hong Kong situation. LeBron does not remain quiet on matters he cares about. When he is silent, it is a selection. That silence sits in contrast to Shaq and Barkley's vocal commentary. Three of the biggest icons in NBA history responded to the identical event in three completely different manners. Shaq went at George on the accountability angle. Barkley questioned the narrative while still advocating for policy reform. LeBron stated nothing. There are a few possible reasons. He may be respecting George's privacy during a difficult personal instance. He may be concentrated on his own Lakers season and selecting not to get involved in another squad's controversy. He may be deliberately avoiding the topic because any remark, positive or negative, would become its own headline and distract from both his performance and his son's development. Because that's the other thread running through this entire narrative. Bronny James. Let's be clear about one matter first. Bronny James has no confirmed incidents of drug use, no failed examinations, no suspensions, and no substance-related violations of any sort. The NBA's random drug testing protocol has never flagged him. Any connection between Bronny and drug use exists only in speculative internet posts, satirical memes, and clickbait framing. There is zero evidence linking Bronny to any substance matter. The closest occurrence to a health-related incident in Bronny's existence was his cardiac arrest on July 24, 2023 during a USC practice. He collapsed, lost consciousness, and required CPR and defibrillation. He was transported to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center where physicians identified a congenital heart defect, a structural matter he was born with. He had corrective surgery, was cleared through rigorous medical protocols, and returned to basketball. A cardiologist who appeared on the Today Show explained precisely what occurred in medical terminology.
This is definitely an uncommon occurrence, but when it happens, it's emotionally jarring. And really what it indicates typically is that there is some underlying cardiac disease that was not picked up.
The physician was clear this was a structural heart matter, not something caused by external substances.